Oh, what is that smell? It smells very strong. Why is there flaky dry skin near my vagina? It hurts to pee. Why is it so itchy down there? Why does the discharge look different from normal? If you've ever experienced one of these thoughts, you might be experiencing one of the 3 common vaginal infections, which are UTIs, bacteria vaginosis, yeast infections. I've actually had experience with all 3 of these, so I'm gonna go through in this video what the symptoms were, how I treated it, and then what you can do to prevent each of these. Disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. Please, if you experience any of these symptoms, go to your doctor, your primary care physician, and have them do a test to make sure that you actually have it indeed, and then figure out how to treat it and find a plan that's right for you. Let's start with the UTI. UTI stands for urinary tract infection, and as it sounds, it is an infection in your urinary tract. I got my first one when I was 18. I was at college, and then all of a sudden I started noticing that I had to pee a lot, like very frequently, but it was a very small amount, which was weird. I was like, okay, like I'm not drinking that much water, so that's weird. And then as time went on, a few days later, it started to hurt when I peed. Like it was a stinging sensation when I peed, and I'm like, oh, why does it hurt? So then I was like trying to avoid peeing, but yeah, I had to go so often, like winced every time I peed, and I was like, okay, this cannot be good. And then like a day later, it got even worse, and then I saw blood. I'm like, okay, I need to go to the doctor. Something's going on. I don't know what this is, like what's happening. I wish I knew about it earlier so I could have gone sooner to get help. But I went to my doctor on college campus and was like, hey, I got some funky shit happening with my vagina when I pee, and it hurts to pee. And they're like, you probably have a UTI, but let's get a pee sample and send it to the lab and find out. So I sent it to the lab, and then it turns out I did have a UTI. So what they did is they gave me some medication. It was some pills. I think it was like 2-week regimen of this pill, and so I took it, and then luckily it was pretty easy to cure. It just went away, it cleared up, and then they gave me a handy dandy sheet of how you can prevent them in the future. So basically a big part of it is you need to pee after sex. I cannot emphasize this enough. I had just started like really active sex life. I heard the rumor that you're supposed to pee after sex, just like, but do I have to? Like afterward, I just want to go to sleep. Like I'm tired. So I literally ignored them for a while as I thought like, oh, it just happened one time. And then I went back 4 or 5 times for a UTI. I'm like, I don't know what this is. This is a UTI. They're like, we still have to do the test. Like, oh, you're in again. Like, are you peeing after sex? And I'm like, maybe I should try that method. So I actually did start like peeing after sex, and then I didn't have another UTI since then. I'm very intense about it. People know I will drink like a bottle of water right before we do it, or like try to time it so that right after I do it I'll have to pee if I know I'm going to do it soon. There's no like set time for when you have to do it after you have sex. You know, like, oh, if you pee within like the 5 hours you'll be okay. Like sometimes I have fallen asleep and like 2 hours later I get up to pee. So everyone's body is a little different, but definitely just try to do it as soon as possible. And as a rule, I just kind of do it whenever something goes up there. Like, you know, if a finger goes up there, even if I didn't have penetrative sex, if I like put a toy up there or something, like I will be peeing afterward, because anytime you're entering like new bacteria up in there, you want to make sure it gets washed out and flushed out so that you don't get a UTI. And honestly, different people have like different levels of how prone they are to UTIs. So some people might never get them even if they don't pee, but I get them a lot if I don't pee after. So that's one big, very important thing. But they can also happen just from other ways bacteria can get introduced. Like maybe you didn't wipe well enough or something, or you like went into a river and went swimming and then didn't pee shortly after or wash it. Some people I've heard have to literally go in the shower and rinse it out after each time they do it or get bacteria introduced. So that's also a method if you want to be super on it. And one of my doctors is like, oh, like, you know, some people are really prone to it that after they have sex, even if they wash it all, we have to give them like this pill to prevent it from happening so you don't get the UTI if you happen to just get it every single time and peeing after isn't helping. That's a big thing. I've also did some research online, and they said you could be getting it if you're not like wiping front to back, which I didn't even know you were supposed to do that like till a couple of years ago. So that's wild. You're supposed to wipe front to back. These are the things that I didn't get taught. And then also drink a lot of fluids to prevent them. So, you know, the more you're peeing, the more you're flushing out and cleaning out your vagina. Sometimes scented products or birth control can also mess with that urinary tract. So talk to your doctor about that as well. And I will say that this can happen at any age. I would imagine it's like urinary tract infection. So at any age you could have a problem with peeing. So I know there's some people who got it when they were like 10 or 11. So totally normal to have it when you're younger, like not weird or anything. Just definitely if you feel a symptom, go to the doctor straight away if you're having some problems like peeing that last more than like a day or two, because the faster you go, the faster you can heal it up. And you don't want this to last like a really long time so that it can kind of start to affect your kidney and other things. So definitely going as soon as possible. And a natural remedy that I've heard is cranberry juice. Now I'm very strong on like the drugs, but it obviously depends on what you want. Like if you want a natural way to cure it, I would go to a naturopath and talk to them and ask them, like, you know, what can I do to prevent it? So talk to your doctor and see what they say about UTIs. The second common vaginal infection I want to talk about are yeast infections. Yeast infection is an overgrowth of this fungus called Candida, which can grow in your vagina. Like, we'll have a natural amount of it, but sometimes it can overgrow and get intense, and then that leads to you having a yeast infection. So, I got my first yeast infection when I was around 23. So this is how I noticed it. It was weird because it started feeling like really dry down there, and then it started getting kind of flaky, like the lips, the labia lips were kind of flaky, and I'm like, that's weird. And then when I had sex, it kind of hurt because it was dry, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, it wasn't really dry liquid wise, but just the outside, like the actual skin was getting dry, and I'm like, that's weird. And then it started itching like bad. Like, I was literally just like against over my clothes, like, oh my god, like there's no way to cure this. I tried putting, you know, lotion on and stuff, like, you know, maybe it's just dry, it just needs some lotion. But no, it was itching hardcore. It was very uncomfortable. It kind of hurt to pee as well, just because I don't know if it's just the pee coming through these dry ass lips, like it hurt to do that. Another common symptom of yeast infection is like cottage cheese discharge and a strong odor. I will note that sometimes some people don't have any symptoms, so it might be good just to check in every once in a while, like how you get STD tests every once in a while, just to make sure everything's all good. So head my way to the doctor. This time, instead of a pee sample, they have to do a vaginal swab. They put this little like big ass Q-tip up in there, and then they take it out, and then they send it to the lab, and turns out I did have a yeast infection. So to cure a yeast infection, luckily it was easier to cure than I thought. It's just one pill. Like, when I first got it, I was like, I called the doctor, I was like, is it supposed to be more than one pill? Like, there's no way, it's just one. She's like, yeah, don't worry. She gave me a fluconazole, but there's other ones you can use too. Prescribed it, took the one pill, boom, it was gone in like 4 days. I'm like, dang, I should have gone earlier. Like, I just took a pill to clear up all that dry itchiness, uncomfortableness. That was really awesome. It like got rid of the overgrowth of the fungus so that the levels were more balanced in my vagina. Of course, you gotta ask, doctor, how do I prevent this? Because I don't want another yeast infection. It's very uncomfortable. She said it's all about trying to keep the balance of your like pH levels and fungus and all that down there in your vagina. So she said you want to do things like, you know, wearing cotton underwear, not wearing super tight clothes. If you go swimming, you know, take off your wet swimsuit like right after. Or if you just worked out and got really sweaty, like shower, clean your underwear. Don't use scented products down there, as it'll like sometimes mess with the vagina and stuff. Some people online recommended not douching. They also say to eat probiotics. So a lot of things like yeast infection is like just trying to figure out what was the thing that triggered it. Like, maybe you just switched like a different soap or something, and so now it's like messing with it, so maybe you can just avoid that. But sometimes it just kind of happens sometimes, or might be a cause. You might get a yeast infection by taking some other antibiotic for a different thing you're doing to heal your body, and it leads to a yeast infection. So there's a lot of possibilities, so definitely go to your doctor and talk about it so you can like figure out how you can heal it best for you and prevent them in the future. And I will say, if you have a yeast infection and you had sex with your partner, definitely let them know. Want to make sure like, hey, let's make sure you're not passing it back and forth, and so like, you know, they can take a pill too, or go to the doctor and check real quick, like, oh cool, you don't got it, cool, we could just keep going. You're like, oh, you do got it, maybe we should do something. Maybe you take the pill, boom, and then you can do it again. There's also like natural options. So I've heard, you know, you put boric acid tablets up there, it helps. But again, please talk to your doctor and do thorough research on that. I haven't done any of the natural ways yet, so I don't know if that helps or not. So talk to your doctor about that if you don't want to like take drugs every time. Also, quick note, just know that yeast infections are pretty common, and I've heard of people having them when they're like 12, so they can happen at any time, and a lot of women experience these as well. It is sadly common for them to reoccur. Once you get one, then chances are you might get another one sometime, so that's just like a pain in the butt, but you know, it is what it is. Luckily, it's not too hard to fix. Finally, I want to talk about bacteria vaginosis, also referred to as BV. This is an infection in your vagina dealing with bacteria being out of balance and out of whack. I got BV when I was also like around 23, and what happened is, again, it started to get kind of dry, and I'm like, that's weird. And then my discharge got really thin, and then it smelled pretty strong, so I'm like, okay, something's definitely fishy in here. So I had to go to the doctor. I was like, hey yo, I'm back. And so they did a cotton swab again, and then they checked and saw, indeed you do have bacteria vaginosis. So I'm like, cool, what do I do? This one, they gave me metronidazole, which can come either in pills, or you could take it in a gel insertion form, which you like insert this gel into your vagina. So I did the pills at first. It's like I think it's a 1 week or 2 week regimen, and you take this pill and then it goes away, which is awesome. And then for preventing it, they said it's kind of hard to know what the cause is, but they know that like the more you have sex, especially with different people, the more likely you might have it, because I think the semen really like messes with the pH balance sometimes. And I'm like, no. This did occur after I did start doing it with a new partner, so I'm like, okay, cool, now I got BV. And similar to yeast, BV can happen because maybe you're trying an antibiotic to heal something else and then boom, you get BV. So there's not a lot you can do besides, again, general cleaning. Like for the yeast infection, like don't wear wet clothes, wear cotton, let it breathe, rinse it out, don't use scented products, etc. So again, with BV, it's kind of like yeast. Gotta figure out maybe there's something that's triggering it, like maybe it's your partner's semen, so you could use a condom that could help with that as well. And BV, similar to yeast infections, sadly, are likely to be recurrent, or it's like common. So if you do get it once, chances are you might get it again. And so I have gotten BV and yeast infections several times. And similar to yeast infections, you just want to make sure to chill on the sex. If you have a BV, it's probably not great to do it. You know, wait till it's all healed, everything's back to homeostasis up in there, and then you can continue again. What I read online is it's harder for males to get it. So like if you have a female partner, then yeah, it's going to be easier for them to get it. So you definitely want to let them know, but you should just let any of your partner know, hey, I have BV, so let's like just make sure you don't have it either, woohoo, and then we can continue on so that they don't pass it back. BV can also happen when you're younger, older. Like, imagine there's some people who just like are born with like vaginas that might be at super balance, so they already have to do more things like more probiotics, etc., to get it to balance. Totally normal. So some last quick facts here is that you can indeed have all three at once. You can have the trifecta. I've only had 2 out of 3 at the same time, BV and yeast infections. Very irritating. My vagina was going wild at that time. Like, it was very painful. And then you just take the medications for both and it should, you know, get everything back to normal. Also, just fact, these are not classified as STDs. So if you have one, it's not an STD, it's just a regular infection that you get in the vagina. So that's all I know about these 3 vaginal infections. Again, please, cannot stress this enough, go to your doctor if something is hurting, itching when you pee, etc., dry, just to make sure it's like none of these. You can rule them out or quickly get medications if it is one of these. These are all very common. They're nothing to be ashamed of. They don't mean you're dirty or gross. So some people actually ask me that. They're like, oh, like, does that mean you're really dirty or don't take care of your vagina? I'm like, no, like, I do all the things. It's just sometimes it gets like the flora and like stuff in there gets all out of whack for some reason, who knows. So please try not to be embarrassed. If anyone tries to embarrass you, be like, this is totally natural human bodily function. Sometimes it just happens. It is very common. Hopefully y'all found this useful and helpful. I wish I knew all about these things before I went and like started getting them, because it would have been helpful to know, like, oh, this is just a yeast infection. Oh, this is a UTI. I don't need to freak out about why my vagina is all dry or why it hurts so much to pee, etc. So it would have avoided me some pain if I had known about them and could have gone to doctor sooner. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video and learned a lot. So please like the video if you enjoyed it and found it useful. Comment if you have any ideas for what you've used that have worked for you to cure one of these, or maybe you just have a question. I'll do my best to answer it. And please subscribe to see more videos like this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!